nerdy. We today are talking about something a little bit different. We're going to go back, I'd say maybe a year or two, and we're going to talk about Zuckuss. Now, Zuckuss, in case you did not know, is a bounty hunter in The Empire Strikes Back. So when Darth Vader has that big line of bounty hunters, and he's telling them, I want the Millennium Falcon, no disintegrations, blah, 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 blah. He's one of the guys standing there in the corner. Now, this figure, as you can already see, was at one point $14.99 and another point was $9.99. So, why do we have it here today? Well, actually, because toy collectors are crazy, I decided that I needed two of them. And I'm not going to walk away from a $10, $20 Black Series figure. And big fan of Zuckuss, one of those oddball characters. And as you can see, at one point, I said 20, he was $24.95. Now, I picked up this figure at the Disney store. Thankfully, there's a Disney outlet / store very close to me here. And I was in there one day, I was perusing through. There he was. Now, I think initially he was a exclusive in Toys R Us, but since there's only Toys R Us in Canada now, the price certainly does go up. But it was also announced that he was going to be a Disney Store exclusive. I think this was like 2 years ago on a Force Friday, or it may even been a Star Wars day at the Disney Store. So I played the waiting game and I lucked out. I got one initially. I think I got him for $24.95. Had to have him because it was Zuckuss. But then I picked him up for $9.99. So let's open him up because let's see, was this figure originally worth $24.95 or was it actually worth $9.99? So, if you're just tuning in, and you're not quite sure, what is a Black Series figure? So, a Black Series figure in Hasbro's line of Star Wars toys is actually a 6-inch figure of a Star Wars character. So, the original Star Wars figures, the basis of that is they appeared as a 375 figure, this is Sarko Plank, which is a character from The Force Awakens, and we use him as an example from time to time. And then, of course, we do have an original. So it's kind of a bounty hunter type of day here. We have an original Kenner figure, so you can see the size is very comparable. This is an original Greedo. These were the original size Star Wars figures. Now, today, with collectors, though there are some that still want figures in this size, there are collectors today who are a little bit more adamant about what they want, and they want a 6-inch figure. My own theory of the 6-inch figure craze is that my hand is a lot bigger than it was when I was a child. So this was the ideal figure. It fit in my hand. I could carry it with me, went everywhere. It fit in my pocket. Now that I'm an adult, a 6-inch figure feels like I'm a kid again. I think that's part of the appeal. They're very popular. They're everywhere. They just announced several new ones. We're waiting on more figures from The Mandalorian. But this guy in Star Wars lore is still creeping around after Empire Strikes Back. Let's get him out of here. So I'm already loving the cloth cape. And I always thought this guy was a great, bug style of character. Just the way he looks, his eyes. I mean, is this a respirator helmet? Is he breathing? So let's take a look here. Let's take a look at the helmet. Very nice. Got a little respirator here. It's very buggy. That's why I always have liked this character. Now his joints feel weird. I'm going to slide his arms back here. It doesn't feel like there's a joint. There is a joint. Very thin though. Ooh, very, very thin. So, and his hands do have a second joint here. Now, for those of you that don't know, so we have an elbow joint and then we have a joint in the wrist so that I can bring his wrist in there like that. So it's another element of collecting that a lot of fans really look forward to because it's a posability issue. You really want him to get a nice posability issue. Now, I had this figure when I was a kid, and he was actually a mail-away figure. So you actually had to mail away for the original Zuckuss. Now, one crazy thing about this figure in the lore of Star Wars, that if you're a big fan of Star Wars, you probably already know this if you collected the toys at the time, but this character was mislabeled when it was initially released, and he was called 4LOM. 4LOM is a droid very much like a buggy style kind of head, but it has a silver body like C-3PO. So Zuckuss and 4LOM were mislabeled. So as a diehard fan that I am, I consider this to be 4LOM. it could have been Forlom. You know, it didn't have to be a number. It didn't have to be a designation like 4LOM was. But for me, it was Forlom. So there was Forlom and Zuckuss. And they've partnered these two considerably through the Star Wars universe on adventures, stories. And now for the 40th anniversary of Empire, you're going to be able to get Zuckuss and 4LOM together in a collector's edition 2-pack. They did it back several years ago for Comic-Con. I think it might have been the 30th anniversary of Empire, maybe the 35th. You got a 2-pack, but you got them as the 375 versions of their figures. So with that, you're able to actually get now the 6-inch version. I have both. I had to special order Zuckuss and from Entertainment Earth. I don't know if he's still available, but he was a kind of a quick flash and pan figure. He wasn't out very long. So let's do an instant pose here. Oh, he does have. So let's lift up his skirt. Nothing dirty about this. Just like to see what's going on. So we do have Hasbro went as far as to give us like almost like a protective gauntlet here on his boot. He does have a double knee joint, which is great for posing. You know, color all the way up to the top. So I love that this is kind of like a utility, like part of his breathing apparatus. We do have a nice little extra tube and extra colors here. So they did not skimp on this exclusive figure at all. He's really a good deal. And it's nice that they're re-releasing it. I know that upsets collectors sometimes because they're like, oh, another one I already have. Yeah, well, maybe not everybody got him. And one of the issues with the Bounty Hunters was they didn't make everybody initially. So you could get Boba Fett, you could get IG-88, and you could get Bosk. But they didn't make Zuckuss, they didn't make 4LOM, and Dengar. And then all of a sudden, boom, Dengar hit, the other two were announced, and everybody was like, well, now I got to go back. So they've re-released them. So maybe this is a chance for other fans to get them. Got an odd gun, and doesn't really have, it's kind of like almost like a, I used to know what that it was. I used to see a shotgun like that. It's very based on that. But it's a nice design. He's a fantastic figure. The cloth cape is really nice. It does kind of turn up here. And let's do an instant pose. I know we're a little away from that. Usually that's like the first thing I do. But there's a lot of explanation with this figure, which is why I picked him today to open. Because I thought we could get a little bit more detail of who he is and what's going on with Zuckuss. So, though I like to call him 4LOM. Trying to zoom in here, but it's a little bit tough doing it Facebook Live. So, as you can see, fantastic figure. Now, I'm going to bring in a very popular figure right now. I did receive this from Hasbro. I should say, I actually received this from Lucasfilm. I went to a Star Wars event in San Francisco, and everybody got a Mandalorian, which was a very, very nice gift because outside of seeing him on Force Friday a couple days later, I have not seen him since. I wish I would have bought like 5 of them. But I figured since I had one, why buy another one? So there we have him. And then I like this figure. So this is Cassian Andor. Now, this is his outfit from Rogue One. A little bit of an odd outfit, but I actually like this figure. This is probably the easiest Star Wars figure to get. He was literally everywhere. However, I think it's funny that Cassian Andor, and I think I have like 3 of these maybe, Cassian Andor is getting his own live-action series. So this figure is actually, I think it's set 5 years before the events of Rogue One, where actually these figures are going to become hot again. And people are going to be like, oh, I have this Cassian, I have that Cassian. He does have another figure. It's a little bit more lax with like the brown coat, kind of the outfit he has underneath. But I figure that if there's one character that may appear on The Mandalorian again, or on The Mandalorian, it could be Zuckuss. And a character that could come on the Cassian Andor series, it could also be Zuckuss. So he could kind of bridge the gap between the two. It also highlights the height of Zuckuss. Now, I think he's about 5 inches tall. Just a little over 5. So he's a little bit shorter than a normal 6-inch figure. All in all, I think his posability is very simple. But he's got a lot of wires and things going on here. But as in detail goes, I mean, it's fantastic. This cloth cape, the camouflage, dirtiness of it. The head here, we've got all these tubes and nodes going back. Tubes and noobs, I like that. Tubes and nozzles and things going back and forth. This little backpack, a different color. What a step up from the original Kenner figure, which I do have. But then let's bring in these other. So we have him as a bounty hunter. And then this is just a scavenger sarcoplank, but it gives you an idea of the height scale that we're talking about here. So all in all, a decent pickup. I would say probably worth the $24.95, not in the posability factor, but definitely in the paint sculpt and the likeness of the figure. So we definitely do get a lot of neat little things. I love the 3 fingers. Didn't even know that about him, that he's only got 3 fingers on each hand. But the boots are great. And there's no date on the bottom, so probably should have just looked on the box and give you a better sense of when he did come out. It was, though this is getting tough too. And by the way, he is a Gand bounty hunter. And then I don't even see it. I don't even know if they're putting dates on boxes anymore. That's the problem with exclusives. And there's no exclusive sticker that he was a Disney store only anyway, because he was at multiple stores, which the era of the exclusive sticker is quickly disappearing. So if you can find Zuckuss, I do recommend picking him up. He's an awesome figure, great for posability, and basic posability, let's say. And the double knee joints is good. It looks like those are starting to disappear. Some of the stormtroopers we've seen the last couple of days are starting to disappear, having the double knee joint. But fantastic gun, great figure. And if you've already collected your bounty hunters, he is a must-have. So this is Bob signing off from Total Toy Recon. Thank you for tuning in, and you have a pleasant day.